One of the biggest challenges about identity is the complexity of managing authorization across lots of different systems, and frankly, just the complexity of the terminology involved. You might hear the words accounts, principals, entitlements, grants. These are all identity words, if you will, that represent specific meanings in the context of applications, and frankly, can be used very different ways across different vendor solutions and within the industry. So one of the things that I want to do is to talk a little bit about ConductorOne's data model and how we think about actually managing access within applications and how we model that from an authorization perspective. So one of the challenges with authorization across lots of different applications is that every single application has its own way of managing authorization. If you look at GitHub, GitHub has accounts. These are user accounts, obviously. It has orgs. Within orgs, it has repos. And then repos have individual permissions and entitlements such as owner, push, pull, etc. And it also has teams. And teams, and being a member of a team, may actually grant you various permissions on the repo layer. And so this is just an example of one complicated solution with or one complicated application and the authorization model with respect to GitHub. There's lots of applications that have very simple authorization models. Let's take something like HubSpot, for example. HubSpot's going to have a very simple model, which is identities and accounts and roles. And given a bunch of accounts, each account may have one to many roles depending on what permissions they have and what's assigned to the individual users. So this is a more simplified example. Now, the challenge across these two applications is how do you take these different data models and how do you pull this into one unified access control, identity security control plane that gives you visibility across these different applications and allows you to run workflows that can provision repo access, provision accounts, provision roles in HubSpot, and does that in a unified way. And that's what ConductorOne solves with our data model. The ConductorOne data model comprises several things. One is we have accounts, which are effectively service principals. So we have accounts here. These can be users. These can be local accounts. There can also be service accounts. So these are non-human accounts that might be shared identities. And then ConductorOne brings in all the resource data from these applications. And then we have typed resources. So we have ideas such as groups, which in the context of GitHub might actually be a team, repositories, orgs, roles. The system itself is able to describe these individual resources to the ConductorOne platform, and we'll model and bring these all in. And so this is the concept of a resource. And then we have entitlements. And what entitlements are permissions or entitled levels of access to those different resources. And so if you think about a repo, an entitlement might be push, pull, owner, and so forth, whatever the permissions might be. And then in the ConductorOne platform, what we're going to do is we're going to model all these different entitlements to the accounts in something that we call grants. And so what this tells us is these accounts have these specific entitlements on these specific different resources. And additionally, different resources can have entitlement relationships between other resources. So if you think about being a member of a team in GitHub, being a member of one of those teams might actually entitle you to various other permissions or entitlements on a repo. So for example, if you're a member of this team, maybe it actually grants you these two permissions over here. So we're going to track that. And then through the ConductorOne platform, we're going to materialize all those different permissions or the effective permissions that people have throughout their platform. And then give you visibility across that and allow you to not only understand what entitlements people have at any given moment, but actually orchestrate changes to those entitlements using the ConductorOne platform.